Hey guys, welcome to Nerdish. I'm Brendan. Here's Levi. And yes, Storm, we did get an intro. It actually makes it a lot easier for us to kind of make sure everything's set up beforehand. Hey Fluffy, good to see you.
What's up?
Yeah. For those of you wondering, we're on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Twitch. So if we're responding to things you don't see, that's why. Today we're going to be covering inequalities and
purpose questions for the reading section, which is the same on SAT and ACT, so it doesn't really matter which test you do if you're interested in those things. And then we'll do questions after that, whatever you want.
Yep.
Post in the Discord. If you're on Facebook or anything else and you don't know what the Discord is, then ask.
You can follow the link to our Twitch. It's linked there. But yeah.
Okay.
All right. And Facebook comments are easier to share pictures with anyway. Levi, do you mind going and sharing that to the group I did last time?
Yeah, I can do
All right. Well, first, can I have you pull up the overlay?
Yes.
So we're going to go over inequalities, and we're going to just jump into it. It should already be to the right spot if you click on the top one, Levi. Yeah. Okay. And then can you make that large? All right. We are going to be doing question 15, which if you look at it, is actually mostly an exponents question. All right. But something they do kind of rarely, but you might see, and something you need to be familiar with, is when they give you the answers like they do where it's using inequality. So you might not be familiar with that. Maybe you haven't seen X in the answer key or an answer looking like one of these. All right. So generally what you do here, you're going to have 3 with the X. I'm just going to rewrite it here for myself. Equals 54. All right. Now, I know, because I've done lots of math, that 3 doesn't go into 54 cleanly. All right. At least to a power. All right. I get 3, 9, 27, 81. So I know that no whole number is going to work, which is why they've given us inequalities here. Okay. Again, if you guys have any questions during any point, feel free to post those. We'll see that. If it's something that's not necessarily related to what we're talking about right here, we'll go ahead and add it to the queue, and we'll answer that question when we have time. All right. So to approach this, I need to find out what value, what whole number, because that's what it shows here, right? What whole number X is going to be between. All right. And E here means that X is greater than 5, so it's any number greater than 5. Because I already know the answer and I know lots of the powers of 3, I know 5 is going to be too big, so I go ahead and cross that off. But how you want to approach this is saying, what values of 3, or what values of X do I know would give me certain values? So, for example, 3 to the 1. All right, 3 squared. I don't have tons of room there, so here. All right, I would keep going, 3 cubed. 27, and then I would get 3 to the 4th, which is just going to give me 81. Now from here I can figure out what my values of X are, because these are going to be what my X values are. I see that X is going to be somewhere between, if I'm supposed to have 54, I know that 3 is way too small, 9 is too small, 27 is too small, and 81 is too big, meaning I should be somewhere between 27 and 81. 54 is between 27 and 81. Those are the only whole numbers I'm able to use, 3 and 4. So my answer is going to be C, that X is greater than 3 but less than 4. All right. If there are any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we're going to continue moving on. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube or Twitch, sorry Facebook, the tests that I'm working on is down below if you want to go ahead and pull that up yourself if you don't want to see it on the overlay, or if you want to find other questions on that overlay to ask for later. Any problems you're not comfortable with, anything like that. You can also find it online at ACT's website. This is one of the free tests they give. I think it is.
Which one?
It should be. But you can find that linked below. Whichever one we're using.
Team College Prep, right?
Say what? Yes, yes, yes. All right. Levi, can you pull up number 29? Should just be the next page over. And it may be on the bottom or top. Sorry. Hit enter. Dang it. All right. Next page. Okay. Up here. So now we're given an actual inequality. This is something you're probably going to see more often on the test. And this is something that you hopefully are familiar with. If not, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and walk through this. Maybe do some steps you're not familiar with. Again, if at any point you're not sure, ask questions. So to start, we have 6x plus 2, or 6 times the quantity x plus 2 is greater than 7 times the quantity of x minus 5. That is hey, Tile, good to see you back. Is equivalent to which of the following inequalities? That's a lot of nerds. All right, we're trying to simplify this. So to start, I'm going to go ahead and just rewrite this. So, okay, 6x plus 2 is greater than 7x minus 5. All right. Hey, Amber. Good to see you guys. Again, if you guys have any questions, you want me to slow down, you want me to speed up, just let me know. All right. What I'm going to do here is, well, first of all, we talk about recognition being the key when you're looking at math problems, right? You have 60 on the ACT and 58 on the SAT, whatever. The key is to be able to recognize what you're supposed to do here. All right. If I don't know anything about what this question is asking, I do know that there are steps I can take at this point. All right. And I recognize that I can distribute the 6 and the 7. What I mean by that is I'm going to get 6x plus 12 is greater than 7x minus 35. Okay. Now, same type of thing. Normally, I'm trying to find x on its own. And if I look at the answer key here, I'm trying to get x on its own. To do that, I don't want to have x be a negative number right now. I don't want to worry about it. So I'm going to subtract the 6x. Okay? I now get 12 is greater than x minus 35. I can then add the 35 over, and I get 47. Let's do that. Is greater than x. Or x is less than 47, which is E. Ooh, almost. Any questions? Does that make sense? Stop me. Tell me to keep going. Here for you guys. All right. There are no questions. I'll go ahead and start erasing this. Storm, great. Levi, can you get to 55 for me?
Yes.
Thanks.
Storm asked a
Question in the Discord?
triangle question, but it's unrelated. You said 55?
Yeah, 55. I think it's the last. Yeah. Okay, this is a little bit more difficult. A more challenging question in the ACT. The last 30 are more difficult than the first 30, but that's not necessarily helpful. The last 10 to 15 are quite difficult compared to the rest of the math test. However, they're not necessarily more, they're more challenging, but not necessarily more difficult. And what I mean by that is the number of steps required may not be as many as some of the previous questions, but the concepts can be much more difficult. All right. For example, this says if x and y are real numbers such that, and I'm going to go ahead and rewrite some of this, x is greater than 1 and y is less than negative 1. All right. Then which of the following inequalities right here must be true? Okay, the key word here is must. It has to be true. This has to happen. Well, for these types of questions, similar to how you would approach the reading or science, or sorry, not science, reading or English section, you want to prove 3 wrong. All right, unless you're really quick, you're really smart, and you can just intuit and you know, oh wait, I know the answer to this right away. For most of us, myself included, that's probably not going to happen, and that's fine. What you want to do is systematically go through this and be able to prove these right or wrong. Okay, let's look at A. If I have x over y, is that greater than 1? Okay, is that true? Well, the only thing I really know here is that x is positive and y is negative. That's really what I know from what they've given me, because x could be anything from 1 to infinity, and y can be anything from -1 to -infinity. So for the purposes of trying to prove this, I really want to just think about it as positive and negative numbers. For this one, if I have a positive number divided by a negative number, it's never going to be positive, so it's never going to be greater than 1, so A can't work. Does that make sense? Again, stop me, ask questions at any time. Next, we're going to look at B, and it's the absolute value of x squared, all right, is greater than the absolute value of y. We'll rewrite this, greater than the absolute value of y. If you know what the absolute value is, if you don't, it's effectively the distance of this value in here from 0, meaning it's always a positive number. If you have -5, it's now +5. If you have 5, it's still just 5. I have 1 or 50, all right, and I have -1 or -50. All right. What I'm trying to do when I go through these is find an example that meets these but doesn't fit this. All right. So if I have a number that has to fit these restrictions and doesn't fit this, I'm going to say, well, what if x is 1? Let's make that a little obvious. And I'm supposed to be figuring out if this is greater than, let's say, -50. All right, is this true? Well, I just solve. So 1, the absolute value of 1 is 1, and 1 squared is 1. So I get 1 is greater than the absolute value of 50. Of -50 is +50. That is not true. So I've proven that B is also incorrect. All right. Now, again, this is a slow way of doing this, but it's also really how I would recommend doing this. Now, for A and B here, you probably don't have to write it all out like I'm doing here to show you how to do this. You could probably just say, well, I know A is wrong because it's a positive and negative. That's out of the question. B, you can think of, well, yeah, if my negative number is greater, then that's out of the question as well, and kind of keep going. Now, let's look at C. I'm going to try to go over here to make a little more room. We have x over 3 minus 5 is greater than y over 3 minus 5. Is that what it says? Yes, I'm making sure I read that correctly. Well, let's think about some values we can plug in here. All right. If I plug in 1 and 1, I'll have a third and a third. But what if I have something that is a multiple of 3? Okay, this is again something to recognize. I can make this a lot easier on myself if I choose a value of x and a value of y that is divisible by 3. It's easily divisible by 3. So I'll just choose 3 and -3 here to make this easier for me to compute. Okay, I have 3 over 3 is just going to give me 1. 1 minus 5, is that greater than -3 over 3 is -1 minus 5. Okay, this right here holds up. 1 minus 5 is 4, and that's greater than -6. But now I need to make sure that I didn't just choose convenient numbers that actually make this work. Okay, if I look at this kind of a little more broadly, I'm taking a positive number, okay, and subtracting a value, and then I'm taking a negative number and subtracting the same value. I could multiply this by 3 to make it look a little bit easier. So if I go up here, I could say x minus 15 is greater than y minus 15. All right, again, if at any point this is getting confusing, let me know, and I can explain or slow it down. But I multiplied by 3, so now I have something that's probably a little bit easier to look at, which is x, or a positive number, minus 15. Is that greater than a negative number minus 15? Yes, and that's always going to be true, meaning our answer ends up just being C. Are there any questions on that? Yes, Amber, x is always going to be greater than y. You can take it to the next step and add 15, and you get that. Exactly. We go from here to here, and we know that's true, always. Great. Levi, do you mind turning off the overlay?
Not at all.
All right. Now we've covered some of the basics of inequalities. and honestly some that are not quite so basic, or one that's not quite so into graphing. Because graphing is something I'm sure all of you have done with inequalities, but I doubt it was stressed. It's probably not something they really made you work on tons at school, and if they did, great. But if they didn't, that's one of the reasons we're going over this right now. They will have it on the test. It's pretty common. I'm not going to promise you, on my life that every ACT or every SAT is going to have one of these questions, but it's very common, and so I would be surprised if there wasn't. If they give you a system of inequalities, right, or just two inequalities, and they ask you to plot them, you need to be comfortable with what that means. You need to know how to do that, and you need to know why something is or isn't shaded, why you'd have a straight line or a dashed line. Some of that's pretty straightforward. So if you have, let's use a different color. I've been using blue the whole time. For example, if we just have a number line, let's see how this is. Yeah. If I have x is greater than 4, let's say 4 is here, 5, 3, I'm going to do this and fill it in this way. Thanks. Right, I have greater than, so it's an open dot. Now, if I were to have the same thing, and I said x is greater than or equal to 4, then I'm doing a closed circle, and then everything this way. It's the same thing with lines on a graph. If I have a graph here, if I have greater than or less than, it's a dashed line. If I have greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, it's going to be a solid line. There we go. Just drew that off. Again, any questions, let me know. That's the very, very basics of graphing, and now we'll get into an actual example. If I were to have, let's make it a little simple here. Y is greater than 3x plus 1, and y is less than negative x plus 2. How would I do this? All right. Why does it, greater than or less than, how does that come into this? How does that, affect how I draw this? Do I draw it like I would just a normal equation? Because they're kind of lines, right? This is slope-intercept form. Does that matter? Yes and no. We'll get to that. So let's just look at this to begin with. Let's just imagine this is an equal sign just to graph it for starters. And I'm going to make these greater than or equal to because I don't want to worry about doing dashed lines. You understand that because I explained it there. This is to make it slightly easier on me. Now you know. I'm going to go ahead and graph 3x plus 1. All right, so starting here, this is where I start at 0. I'm there at 3, I'm at 2, and at negative 3, I'm at 0, and that's going to be my line, roughly. Now, I need some more colors. Levi, can you hand me 2 colors that are not orange or blue? Thank you. And just one more. Pink, possibly? Thanks. Oops. Okay. Hopefully these colors show up like I want them to, but I'm saying that y is greater than this. So what that means is I'm choosing every value of y above this. So this is that. Straightforward. If not, let me know. All right, next I'm going to graph, and I'll do this in orange, negative x plus 2. So here I start there, and I'm going down at a slope of negative 1. So I'm here, 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 da, da, da. So I am, oof, that was a bad line, drawing something like that. And for this, what I want is every value of y less than this. So that's everything in here as well, and even this part right here. Now, they're going to, there's a couple ways they'll ask this, right? They might give you just a picture of this with the correct part shaded and ask you to find the two systems or the two inequalities, or they'll give you the two inequalities and ask you to choose one of 4 different graphs, or 5, I guess, if it's the ACT, that are correct. So this may be obvious and maybe it's not, but what we want here is something that fits both of these. So it has to be the parts where they overlap. This doesn't overlap, so I don't care about it. All right. This part doesn't overlap, so let me get rid of that. And if I look at this, the only part that really overlaps is everything in here. All right? And that would be your answer. That's how you would shade this. Any questions on that? This is something that's not super difficult once you've seen it a few times, but it is something that you're very, very likely to see on the tests. So if you have any questions, now's a good time to ask them. Are you checking Facebook? Because I don't know if those comments always come in.
I can.
Okay. All right. Yes, it's just myself. It's just Levi and me. Brady's upstairs tutoring via Skype. Because we do that. We tutor privately as well. But we do this 5 nights a week, Sunday through Thursday, even when the football game's on. Guys, the football game is on right now, and we're missing it to tutor you for free. But for the Super Bowl, we're taking the day off. All right. Yeah. Is Storm Pollux?
Yes.
Is it a math question?
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and do that real quick then, if you are all right with that.
That's
before
fine.
letting
Yeah, I
you.
was thinking
Okay.
to do that.
So, Storm. Ooh, dang! All right, Pats are up 14-7.
14-7. That's
Yeah.
good. It was 14. It was 14-0 at half.
Oh, when you walked down. Okay.
Yeah. Good. They scored.
All right. Yeah. No, I want it to be KC and the Rams.
Yeah.
I'm from the Midwest, and I
But
just.
do we have any hope of the Patriots being beat? Not really.
Well, you never know. It's anyone's game, anyone's day. Anyone can have a good
Sure.
day and come out on top.
But Brady's been to the AFC champion or NFC championship, I think, the last 8 years or something silly.
Well, good for him.
Yeah, I know.
I served his
So
wife at the restaurant
sad.
I worked at a while back. She was a polite woman. It was fine. I feel like even if she was embarrassing, I feel like I'd be weird talking about how
Yes.
she didn't act appropriate. It was a ritzy restaurant, guys. I bust tables. Okay. Pollux's question. For those of you who are new or who don't know, these questions are all in the Discord down below. Oh, nice. Down below, if you're on Twitch or YouTube, if you are following or watching on Facebook Live, we should have a link to our Twitch. If not, it's Nerdish, the same as our Facebook name, our Facebook page. You can go to twitch.tv/Nerdish, and you will find where we're streaming live on Twitch. We have our Discord linked there, and a couple of practice tests as well. It's all free. It's all available. Ooh, I like this question.
I haven't looked at it.
Oh, man. Pollux, this is a good question. All right, I'm going to do my best to draw this, but it will not look great. That's okay. You've been warned. It looks something like that. Probably not as big of an angle here. Doesn't matter. It's just visuals. Boom. Boom. Now, what they say is that in the figure shown below, we have A, D, E, F, G, B, C. 6, 5, 4. All right. E and G lie on line AC. D and F are on AB, so on and so forth. And you have that DE, FG, and BC are all parallel. So boom, boom, boom. What can we do with this? They give us one more line, one more length. Sorry, 12. What is the length of AC? So we're trying to find. Do you mind writing up the answer choices here?
Yeah, can I have a marker? That's good.
Yeah, one of these is. The blue and orange are good. Thanks. We want to find AC. All right? It's in the summer. We want to find some air conditioning. How do we do it?
Nice.
Come on, I have to be able to make
Nice.
those jokes, right?
I liked it.
All right, thanks. The way I like to do this, we know a couple of things here. I'll go ahead and put this down. Pollux, Storm, go ahead and at any point let me know if I've gone past something if there's something you already know, great. If there's something I start to do and you're not familiar with it, go ahead and stop me. That goes with anyone, actually, but Pollux, you're the one who specifically asked this. So what I know is that I have a couple of different triangles, right? I have ADE, I can think of as its own triangle. AFG is its own triangle, and ABC is its own triangle. Okay, I could draw those all out over here, but a small one, a little bit bigger, and then a little bit bigger. Okay? What I know, because these lines are parallel, is that all of these angles are similar. Now, that on its own, not too useful. However, every single one of these triangles has the same point up top, and it's A. Meaning, they all share this angle here. Every single one of them. So now if we look at this, we have all these triangles that have two similar angles. And if you think about it, you have triangles that are 180 degrees. And I have angle A and angle D, F, and B, which are all the same. So if I subtract the same number from that for all of these, this third angle has to be the same as well for every single one of these. I keep dropping this. Does that make sense? Pollux, that might be where you got confused. Let me know. But that is what you want to recognize here. If you have triangles, especially if they tell you something is parallel, you're most likely going to be looking for angles. All right? And angle theorems and anything of the sort there. So what I know now is that from this angle, or this length to this length, there's already a ratio, right? I know for this triangle it's 6 to 12, and I don't know what this length is, and I don't care. But I know, because all of these triangles are similar, that this ratio of 6 to 12 has to hold true for all the other sides here to the long sides here. Which is convenient, because I want AC. And if I were to do this, right, this is going to be 6 to 12 is going to be 11 to something, right? If we drew, this is X, and then this whole length is Y. I would eventually get AB over, AC equals 6 over 12. That's the ratio we're going for. It's going to be, if we simplify this, AB over AC is equal to 1/2. So AB is 1/2 the length of AC. Does that make sense? Storm or anyone else who's asking. Do you still have the Facebook comments pulled up? Because I don't know if we're getting all of those. Thank you. Yes, it does.
Nothing going.
I think. No, you might have said yes earlier. Yeah, great. Now, I know AB, and then I have an equation, and I only have one unknown. So I just solve for it. So this is going to be 15 over AC equals 1 over 2. AC equals 30. Great, that's an option. D is correct. Yeah, I like those questions. Are there any other questions related to this? Anyone or Storm? If you guys are interested, there's a video on our YouTube where I go through all of the angle theorems you need to know for the SAT and ACT. I go over in pretty good and pretty in-depth explanation of those. It's probably a 7-minute video, 7 to 10 minutes. But if this is something you're not super familiar with, I would recommend checking that out. Every time I gesture, I lose this. But yeah, that's another resource if you guys aren't familiar with this. All right. If there are no other questions on those topics, Levi, I think you're good. I am going to erase some of this. Is this on YouTube? Yes. So we're streaming on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook right now.
Yeah. The overall video is not saved on YouTube.
It is.
So. This overall video?
Yes, it is.
Oh, I
Yeah.
lied.
YouTube does that, and YouTube doesn't have like an end date, so it can just stay there forever, whereas Twitch kicks it off. So I think that's actually not a bad idea for us to do.
Okay.
But yeah, YouTube automatically saves it.
We're going to lag, maybe.
Yeah, while we switch through this, it might slow down a little bit. Bear with us on that. Again, though, any questions, guys, feel free to post in the comments if you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitch or YouTube. Post in the chat. All of that should be coming to us. We've got a screen in front of us with all of your comments. Live. Got you while we're in transition here. We do this free live 5 nights a week, Sunday to Thursday, 8 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern, because New York, East Coast, Best Coast, whatever. And yeah, if you guys, hey, thanks for the follow, good guy Moore. Look at that, it works. We also do private one-on-one tutoring. If you're interested, you can reach out to us in any of the social medias you're watching us on. You can reach out to us on the Discord. We have a website that should be linked in pretty much all of everything that we're streaming on. If not, you're watching us somewhere, and that's how you can contact us.
Yeah.
Am I forgetting anything else? No. Nah, we got free practice tests.
They're not ours. They're just the ones online.
Yeah, no, they're free online. We just put them all together and say, here you go.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Amber Muffin, in terms of weather, but I like the East Coast better.
It is nicer there.
Yeah, no, we spent a number of years. Oh, hey, nice jacket. Look at that.
Yeah.
Bad branding. No, we spent a number of years there for college, and so, yeah, we understand the weather's better there. But
okay, now we're going to do the super fun stuff, which is the reading section.
Yeah.
These are purpose questions, okay? They're not crazy difficult or anything like that, but they are very important because I think that people miss when they're actually happening, and they interpret them like any other question, and you shouldn't. They are their own sector of questions on the reading section. So number 14 right here is what we're going to do first. So this is a purpose question, and you can tell because it says the word purpose in it. Okay, it won't always, but in this case it does. And it asks, what's the main purpose of the second paragraph? Gives you the lines.
That's nice.
Now you can read the answer choices right away. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I would go back to the paragraph, and it depends on how you read through the paragraph the first time. If you have read the whole passage already once through, or you skimmed it, or you're just reading it now, whatever it might be, you have to read it until you know what's going on in that paragraph. But the point of purpose questions is asking why. It's not asking what. It's not like a detail question. Like the one before it is an inference question, right? They ask about inferring, and that's fine. This is not you're not really inferring anything here. You're trying to figure out why they did what they did. And we'll get to that in another example question. But in this case, the main purpose of the second paragraph. So we go back to the second paragraph, and I'll have Brendan do that in a second. But once you read that, we're not answering, when we go back and look at these answer choices, we're not looking for what was said. We're looking for why did the author say it. So the most important word to think about for purpose questions, aside from the word purpose, I guess, is the word why. If you're answering what, you're going to be wrong, because they will put the answer to what they're saying in one of these answer choices. Why matters. And on top of that, it has to make sense with the rest of the passage. So they're asking about paragraph 2, right, here. And paragraph 2 is part of this whole passage. So you have to have in mind what you think the main idea of the passage is, and then the purpose of paragraph 2 has to be aligned with that. So let's go back real quick to this passage. Now, you don't necessarily have to read this passage before I do this right now. I'll just give you a little bit of spark notes. So ignore these marks on here now. But yeah, we're good here. Yeah, so paragraph 2 starts with, few people know that the Amazon is one of the most rapidly urbanizing regions in the world, observes this dude. And the city of this grew really big, and there are little shanty towns that have popped up, yada, yada, yada. What Gomes, founder of this workshop school, and his colleagues have created is hope. Okay, great. So the Amazon is urbanizing really quickly, and there's this one town that got really big, but all these towns are really bad. There's failed development policies, and this guy has made a school, and he's given people hope, maybe. Okay, so that's the what. That we just answered what, just to go through it. Now, this whole passage is about this guy's Amazonian workshop school for fabrication of stringed instruments. Okay, and that's the whole passage about his school and what they do. So the purpose of this passage is it has to be in line with that. Okay, so let's go back to the question now, Bryn, real quick, and then we'll be done with this question. And then I'll do one more example, and then we can do other things that are more exciting. So let's read F. The main purpose of this paragraph is to draw attention to the Amazon's tremendous population growth. No. Now, they said, right, this answers the question, what? What did they say in the paragraph? Well, they talked about tremendous population growth, or at least tremendous urbanization. But that's not the point. The whole passage is about this guy who made this workshop school. So the point of paragraph 2 is not to draw attention to the fact that there's a lot of population growth, because we don't really care. It's just, it's a little bit too specific. So I don't like F for that reason. We don't want to draw attention to tremendous population growth. Now, G, explain the necessity for ventures such as Gomes's. Yes, this is better because it's using the what from F as the answer to why. Yes, there's tremendous population growth. Yes, there are these shanty towns there, and therefore that could explain why we need these schools that Gomes is doing.
Sorry.
So I like G, but let's move on because we have to prove 3 wrong. We're always proving 3 wrong here. H, explain the presence of the Ford Foundation in the Amazon. No, it does not explain it. So this is where it gets very, very nitpicky. You might be able to infer that these might be reasons why, but it's too much of a jump. So the Ford Foundation is something else, and they just name dropped here. That's another thing you have to be careful of in purpose questions and all the questions on the reading section, is they will just say something like Ford Foundation, which if you go back, if you click the link that's down below and look at this passage, they just say that one of the people they reference works for the Ford Foundation, and that's it. They don't talk about it otherwise. So be careful of what we call name dropping, where they're just dropping a couple words so that if you're rushing or you don't care enough or you're not paying attention, whatever it might be, you see the name, you say, oh, I recognize that name, and you put that answer. That is a bad idea. I would actually, if you're going to be guessing, stay away from the name dropping. If you see capitalized words in an answer choice and you have 2 seconds, don't necessarily put that one. So H is wrong. They name dropped, and it doesn't make sense as to why. It's jumping too far. And then J, justify raising taxes to increase social services in the Amazon. No, they don't talk about taxes. So J is just horribly off base. It's just entirely irrelevant. So irrelevance is there. So we dealt with answering what, which you don't want to do. You obviously don't want to be irrelevant. You don't want to name drop. Or you don't want to be seduced by the name dropping. Irrelevant or irrelevant? There's
There's an A in there somewhere.
There's an A? Okay, so we're good. Okay, so we have these things. There are other ones. There's, when they're wrong or whatever, contradictory. So I'll just say wrong. There are a bunch of possible problems with the answer choices for purpose questions. I would say that this one is the most important, most specific to this question, because we're used to answering what. What did they say in these detail-oriented questions around the purpose questions? And then the other one is name dropping, because purpose questions are sometimes confusing with regards to the what versus why, but then they'll just drop names that you recognize, and you say, oh, that'll be the answer because I recognize that word. No, that's not the case. So in this case, we have a what answer. We have the right answer, which is G. And then we have a name-dropping answer, and then we have an irrelevant answer. Okay? That is, I really like this example for purpose questions. Does anybody have any questions about purpose questions in general, or thought, you want to know more about how to approach them? Please let me know. Otherwise, we will do, what do we go? 17.7. Okay. That's fine. That's a good question, though. Brandon, can you go to the next passage, or the next set of questions?
Yeah.
I think I need 25. Number 25.
Gotcha. Same spot.
Cool. Okay, this is the next passage, and I haven't read this passage. I just looked at this question real quick, and it seems like something we can actually deal with without reading the whole passage, which is kind of nice. Not that I recommend doing that. I recommend against doing that, actually.
Unless you're strapped for time and it's the last one.
Unless you are strapped down for time. You are strapped down by time to the conveyor belt that is your life, bringing you to your death. What?
Is that not a term?
Strapped for time.
Strapped for time. Yeah, I just said strapped down.
I didn't say strapped down for time.
No,
Yeah,
I did. I
he
did. Yes.
Yeah.
I know he. Yeah.
Okay. The author mentions. Sorry, we are doing number 25. The author mentions Melody Maker, the top 20, and articles about musicians, primarily to suggest that his something. Okay. So, Brennan, let's hop back up to the passage, and
Sure.
we have to look at the paragraph. We have to go to the bottom. Yeah. Okay. So this is where we are. We have Melody Maker here and some other stuff. So let's just read at the beginning of the paragraph. When I look back at this period in my late teens, I recall the harnessing of undirected mental energy by intellectual pursuits. Up until then, my mental energy contained fairly serious articles. Wait, no. My mental energy had gone into things like reading Melody Maker, which contained fairly serious articles about pop musicians. I always knew the top 20 off by heart, and studied the articles about drummers intensely, hoping to improve my own technique. Okay, so the key here is when I look back at this period of my life, and I do these things. So I'm not really sure what this passage is about, but it doesn't really matter. This person's looking back. So let's see what we can get rid of in the questions, or in the answer choices. Brendan, can we go back to the answer choices? Very good. Okay, so the author mentioned these things, Melody Maker in the top 20, primarily to suggest that his early interest in music has remained with him to the present. No, this is wrong because you would be making an inference about other things. What the author does, why is the author saying these things? The author is just talking about his early childhood, right? So you saying he says those things to demonstrate that his interest with music has remained with him to the present? No. It's just saying that it was in the past. So that's a jump that you're not allowed to make. Okay? So maybe I'll say too big of a jump? I don't know. Too big. No. Assumptions. It's an assumption. You're making an assumption that, yes, you're very likely to be right, but this is an evidence-based test. And you can't make assumptions. Unless they ask you to. But they don't in purpose questions. So we don't like assumptions either. So that's why A is wrong. B. The author mentioned these things primarily to suggest that his time spent playing music should instead have been spent reading. No, he doesn't really badmouth what he did in the past and say, I should have been reading the whole time. So that's not why the author mentioned those things, which means that B is wrong. So that missed. I wouldn't say that it's one of these things, or I guess it is. It's wrong. Okay, so we have assumptions and we have wrong. It just is incorrect. That's fine. Now, C, fascination, to suggest that his fascination with pop music and musicians gave focus to his life for a time. I like that. It's about pop music, it interests him, and it gave focus to his life for a time, which is very nice because he was alluding to that when he said, in my early childhood, I had this undirected mental energy. And so why did he say those things, and then why did he mention these other things? It's to show the music. And also, C is in line with the passage as a whole, I assume, which is probably about this author's interest in music. I like C. Now, D. To suggest that his commitment to study enabled him to perfect his drumming technique. No, this is not a commitment to study. So he mentioned the Melody Maker and then top 20 music, and that doesn't explain a commitment to studying. That wouldn't be the reason why he's committed to studying. So I don't like D, which means that the answer is C. Okay? Please let me know if you have any questions on that. Please let me know if the score of the Pats game changes. But these are purpose questions, okay? The most important thing is why. As soon as you see a purpose question. Now, notice 25 doesn't say the word purpose. It's very nice if it does, but it's not that hard to recognize when it is. The author does this thing to. The word to is very common in these purpose questions. Okay, if they say the author does this too, they've already explained the what. They're not asking what did the author say. They're saying the author said this to do what. Or they might just, they don't say why does the author do it normally, but they could. This is the question you're answering. Why? Don't get caught up by what. You can generate, if you're paying attention, get rid of irrelevant answers. Don't get caught up by name dropping. If it's wrong, just, it's wrong. Try to find the wrong answers and cross them off. And then don't make assumptions that may make sense, but they're not supported in the text. Okay? Seems like there are no questions, so we can open up to other stuff now. Whatever you want to go over. It can be reading, it can be strategies, writing, English, math.
We got a tile question.
Science.
I want his second question.
Tile.
I want their second question.
Yeah.
Tile, 1, 2, 4.
Let me turn this off for you.
Oy. Tile, 1, 2, 4. Is that coming from like times 2? Like 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Is that the geometric sequence that you're getting that from, or am I just off base? Is it December 4th? Is it January 24th? What's going on there? I want to know more. That's what I'm saying. Nope. Okay, that's good.
No.
If you want to elaborate, up to you. Otherwise, I'm going to write this up. We got, we got the cube root of 6 to the r power is set equal to 36 to the s. And what they're looking for is the value of s over r, question mark. Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, exponent properties is what this question is all about. We have to somehow, the goal here is to get ourselves to a place where we have the same base on both sides. Like, let me give you an example. 5 to the x plus 2 is equal to 5 to the 3x minus 6. If this is true, then x plus 2 and 3x minus 6 must be equal to each other. So if we could get our bases to be the same... Oh, is that a score?
Yes.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Let's go.
Sports. Very good.
Bring it back.
If we get our bases to be the same, we can set our exponents to be the same, and then we got somewhere. Okay? They got the extra point. So for this one, we have to eventually get this to the place where the bases are the same. Okay? I have a little... what's it called when you have an inkling? I have an inkling. I was going to say hinkering, but I have an inkling.
Hunch.
A hunch of what that number is going to be, but we'll get there. So first thing, inside the parentheses, we have the cube root of 6. There's another way that you can express that, all right, which is a fractional exponent. You could say this is the same thing as 6 to the 1/3, okay? Just as a side note, anything to, if you're taking the square root of something, that's the same thing as that number taken to the 1/2 power, all right? It's the same exact thing, it's just another way to write it. So that's what I'm doing here. The cube root is the same thing as taking something to the 1/3 power. And then we still have r on the outside is equal to 36 to the s power. Next thing we can do, when we have parentheses separating exponents like this, you're supposed to multiply the exponents together. So this is going to give us 6 to the 1/3 times r. 6 to the 1/3 r is set equal to 36 to the s, okay? The 1/3 r is the same thing as r over 3. I am kind of a stickler when it comes to like little ways to simplify, so I'm going to do that, but it's not that important. Okay, 36 to the s. All right, so we're closer now. We've cleaned up a lot of the mess on the left side. Can we change one of these numbers to turn into the other number? What we have to do now is called changing of base. 6 and 36, that should kind of strike you as there's something going on there. 6 squared is 36, the square root of 36 is 6. There is a very clean way of turning one of these numbers into the other.
5 my lord.
5 my lord! No, absolutely not. I would take the big number and turn it into the small number taken to a power, but that's just me. So 36 is 6 squared, and I'm going to just take that, I'm going to dump it in where 36 was. I'm just going to say this is the same thing as 6 squared to the s power is equal to 6 to the r over 3. All right? As long as you use parentheses, you haven't changed anything. What's inside is still the same thing as 36. Same deal with exponent properties. The inside and outside of parentheses, we're going to multiply these two things. So we're slowly running out of room, but 6 to the r over 3 is equal to 6 to the 2s. Now we've got the same base. We can set up an equation where our exponents are equal to each other. And I'm going to do that with a different color to make things kind of fun. I don't know. So r over 3 is equal to 2s. And what they want us to find is the value of s over r. Now, I can't really find s by itself or r by itself. It's just going to be an equation in terms of the other variable. So what I'm trying to do is manipulate this around algebraically to turn it into s over r. So the first thing I would recommend is let's just solve this thing for s first. And once we get to that point, we can divide both sides by r and we'll get s over r. You know what? I also don't like fractions. As one teacher once told me, fractions are a distraction. So the way to get rid of this over 3 is you multiply both sides by 3. So I'm just going to get that out of the way real quick. Multiply both sides by 3. It's going to give us r is equal to 6s. Okay, so to get s over r, we got to get s by itself, which the way you do that is you divide both sides by 6. So we have s is equal to r over 6. Fantastic. Now the only thing that's separating me from having s over r is just I got to take this s and I got to divide it by r. So both sides divide by r. That'll cancel out the r from the other side, leaving you with 1/6. 1/6 is equal to s over r. Any questions? David S. Pumpkins. I don't know if the kids like David Pumpkins anymore. Maybe they're too old for him. Maybe we all grew out of David S. Pumpkins at some point.
Yeah, the 2-year-old skit.
Yeah, it seems like it was a long time ago. I don't know. Tile 124. Any questions on any of this? You got to know your exponent properties very, very well to be able to move around like this. I got 6 is equal to r over s. Amber, that's right, but they're asking for s over r. So all you need to do is, if you want to flip your fraction, flip what's on the other side.
You know, fractions speak louder than words.
Fractions speak louder than words. So you have 6 is r over s. In order to flip the one side, you can flip the other, but if you have a whole number, it's secretly over 1. So if you flip the side, you'll see that 1 expose itself rather lewdly in public. 1 over 6 is equal to the s over r. So you were right there. What you had was correct. You just had to turn it into s over r. Yeah. It's something that you really don't do a lot in school. You know, you learn how to, like, oh, you add one thing to one side, you add the same thing to the other side. That's fine. You're also allowed to flip both sides. Take the reciprocal of both sides.
How do you
yeah, you actually, if you do it the right way, you'll jump up a little bit when you do it.
By the seat of your pants.
By the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
Everyone will jump up by the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
All right, Amber Muffin. That's all I got. I'll erase this for you.
Thanks. Okay, Storm, you there? I'm sure you're there. You're actually paying attention. Very good. So, we have this problem that I've shorthanded here. Jane has a daughter. And the ratio of Jane's age to her daughter's age is 9 to 2. The sum of their ages is 44. How old is Jane? Okay, there are a couple ways to do this. I'm going to do what I think is the quickest way. If you think about ratios, you can take the basic ratio and just assume that those are the given numbers. So we can say that this doesn't make any sense, but when Jane was 9, her daughter was 2. That's not how people age, and also you can't have a daughter that's 2 when you're 9. Unless it's dogs.
But by dog years, they'd be
younger.
Yeah.
Forget dogs.
They could be dogs.
Because I always say, forget dogs.
You always say forget dogs.
Yep.
And then you get bit by them at your student's apartment.
I have gotten bit by a dog at a student's session in their apartment.
Yes, if you have your dogs near your computers right now, please keep him away from Bird, otherwise he might get hurt.
For whatever reason, yeah. Newly adopted dogs just really take to my right calf. Okay, continue.
Anyway, this is our situation here. Now, what we can do is we can say, well, Jane's age to her daughter's age is this ratio given here. But what is Jane's age as a ratio to the sum of their ages? Because the sum of their ages within this given full ratio that we have is 9 to 2, we know that the whole thing is out of 11. So that means that Jane is 11. No. That's not what that means. We have 9 to 11. I have drawn this so poorly, it's unbelievable. We have a 9 to an 11, where this is Jane, and this is the total. Now, this total thing, it doesn't really matter, right? At no point is the sum of their ages 11, I guess, until maybe when Jane was 11, before she had a child, and her child is technically 0, then it adds up to 11, okay? So here, we can make a ratio, sorry, we can use this ratio to make a proportion with 44. Storm, are you paying attention? Are you around? Otherwise, I'm just speaking into the ether. So here we can say 9 over 11 equals...
Is it actually? It's ether.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just
No, it's ether or, right?
I hate you
Ether
so
or.
much.
Go. Whatever. Keep going.
Leave this place.
So here, we're going to make this proportion with Jane to the total, and this is the given proportion that we added that total to, and then we have this total in this scenario is 44 to, let's say, x, which means that x equals 36, which means that Jane is 36 when their ages add up to 44, so Jane is 36 when her daughter is 8, which is a much more human thing, unless it's a very old dog. There are other ways to do this. Should I do another way?
Yes. What's the other way you're going to do? Is there an x in there?
I was going to do an x and y and make a system of equations.
No.
Oh, I was just going to do 9x and 2x.
Yeah, because it's the same.
Like,
And then-
we don't know how much bigger their ages are for 9 and 2. It might be that they're both double, like 18 and
Right.
4. So what you can
They're
do
the
is
same value.
9x to 2x is the same thing as 9 to 2. So
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with throwing in an x into both of these. And then we could just
Sure.
set up an equation. The sum of their ages is 44. So 9x plus 2x will be 44. What this will solve for is your multiplier. How much bigger their ages are than 9 to 2. How many times bigger. So in this case, 11x is 44. X is going to be 4, which means all of their ages are 4 times bigger than 9 and 2. And then you get the same,
Yeah.
which is 36
So
and
if
8.
you like multipliers, this is a good way. If you like, regardless, you have to, in this one, you have to realize that you can add them up to have this total number, which is where that 44 is. Or there's a third way that I think, no, there's really not any need to explain it.
Why not?
Because it's more stuff, unless, Storm, you want a third way to do this question.
Storm likes context.
Storm does like context. What do you want, Storm? Who else has a question? Tyler has another question.
Yeah,
right?
I got that one.
Yeah, I just won't do it. It doesn't really matter.
Brendan!
I like this one.
Friend I haven't talked to in probably like, what's senior year of high school? 6 years? 7 years? 6 years? Reached out. Has some really good marketing ideas for us that you guys are going to laugh at. Like, but they're actually brilliant. I just don't want to say it on stream.
Got it.
Hey, we
'Cause
have a
I-
question.
I
Is
don't
it,
want other
is it
people to
harvesting the organs of our viewers?
No. It was
Okay.
selling our own organs for money, quick cash in the
Right.
black market.
Pollux on the... You already put it up there.
Yep,
Pollux has a third question?
Pollux has another question.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, Tile. What we have here, and for those of you who aren't connected to our Discord, I'll do a very, very rough drawing here. So there's a number of points, but the points they actually want you to look at are here, here, and here, and they give you the values. All right, you have 610, 1210, and 12.6. That's it. Now, what they're asking for is the tangent, the angle, right? The tangent and the angle formed between these two. Sorry, not these. Let me go ahead and draw these out. This angle right here. Okay? So we're trying to find the tangent of that angle. Well, I can make this very difficult, or I can make it much less difficult. Okay? Tyler, are you still on? You still watching this? Yay, nay, maybe? All right. The first thing I want to realize is that because I know that this is... Let's take a step back. What I first want to do is find the distance of these lines. Yes, you're right. Is that an exponent? Sorry, that's degrees. It's x degrees, Storm. Yes, tangent is opposite over adjacent. The first thing I want to do, though, is figure out the distance here. Okay, because my x values here are the same, my distance is just going to be the distance or the difference between my y values. So this is just going to be 4.
units, feet, inches, whatever it is they've said it was in. I can do the same thing here, except here the y's are the same. I can ignore those. I'm only changing my x. Now from here, I could try to do some very complicated, nasty things to find the actual value of x here, but we're not trying to find the value of x. We're trying to solve for the tangent of x, degrees. And Tile already explained that, but if we have SOHCAHTOA, I'm worried right here. This is my wheelhouse. I want the tangent, which is the opposite over the adjacent angle or length. Right? So I have the angle is here, and my opposite length is going to be 6, and my adjacent is going to be 4. All right? The opposite's the easy one. You know the adjacent has to be 4 and not whatever this value is, because this is the hypotenuse, and we have a different way of representing that. And 6 over 4, I believe, just is the answer. Yeah. Yeah. Can you not? Yeah, Storm, if that wasn't clear, this is just the degree symbol. But thank you, Amber Muffin, for making sure that was clarified. Yes. Is that clear, Tile? Does this make sense? What caught you up or tripped you up on this? Is there anything that was a little more difficult? I think something lots of students will do here that's kind of a time suck, a way to waste time, is they'll assume right off that they need to know the hypotenuse. And so you can, because you know this is a right triangle, you can just do 4 squared plus 6 squared and try to solve for it that way. The question wording is what threw you off. Which part specifically? Let me pull it back up and read it just so everybody can know what it was saying. So the points graphed here, yeah, each coordinate unit is 1 mile. Okay, so this is in miles. What is the tangent of the angle formed by, let's see, this is AB to AC. What is the tangent of the angle formed from AB to AC? So what they're saying is, what is the tangent of this angle that is formed between these two lines? The angle between those two lines should be clear. I think what was possibly the wording that confused you was tangent of the angle is maybe not something you've heard. Maybe that's not how you've heard it expressed. It might just be the tangent of 20 degrees, right? Yeah, I think that's something where if you're not comfortable with the wording, try to figure out what they would be asking, right? You know they're talking about this angle, so how would you figure out what that angle is, or how you would figure out the tangent of that angle? Yeah. The best way to get better at this type of thing so the wording doesn't confuse you is taking more tests, or at least practicing more math problems. Sorry, it's not just a simple one-all way to fix that, Tile. All right. Brady, are you good for Pollux?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Pollux. The next school year, a college will use 1/9 of its money in its operating budget for library books. So we got 1/9 going towards books.
That's a lot of money. I like that school.
That's a lot of books. And 1/6 of the money in its operating budget for scholarships. 1/6 going for scholarships.
This is a public school. I have some issues with that.
I have no idea how fractions work. What fraction of the operating budget remains for other uses?
Ooh.
All right, so how much is left, basically? Big picture here, if you think of this bar as their operating budget, some of it has been taken up already. They're asking for how much is left. So we have to start with, they're not giving us the actual dollar amounts, they're just giving us fractions. So what a whole amount is just 1. We're going to take 1 and we're going to subtract fractions away and see what's left. So that's the general picture here. So we have to figure out how much has been used so far. They've told us 2 different areas that the money's gone. 1/9 has gone to books, 1/6 has gone to scholarships. Great. How much is that in total that they used so far? Or in other words, what is 1/9 plus 1/6? Fraction operations, adding fractions. They have to have the same denominator. We have to find the least common denominator for both of these and then convert them both into that. One way you can always find a denominator that they're going to share is by multiplying the two denominators together and getting 54. We could make these both over 54. Now, there is an earlier number that both these numbers go into, which is 18. You're trying to find the least common multiple here. So 9 goes into 18, 6 also goes into 18. We can convert both of these. So in order to make 9 into 18, we want to multiply it by 2, as well as the top number. That's how we convert fractions. We multiply the top and the bottom number by the same number so that the overall value doesn't change. So this is going to turn into 2/18, and we're adding, this needs to be multiplied by 3 on the top and bottom, 3/18. And now that they're over the same number, we're talking about the same kind of part, 2/18 and 3/18. We can add up the top numbers and get 5/18. So they have used 5/18 of their budget so far. What is left? Here's where we get to the 1 minus that I was telling you about. 1 minus 5/18. Let's turn 1 into a fraction. So 1 over itself, 1 over 1 is a fraction. Same deal here as before. We have to convert these fractions to being over the same denominator. So we want them both to be over 18. I know that 18 over itself is 1. So that's the equivalent of 1. It's just 18 over 18. Now we can subtract. 18 minus 5 is going to be 13. So 13 over 18 is the amount of the budget that is left, which is... Which letter is that? I'm not sure. That's 13 over 18. H. H. Yeah, Pollux. Any confusion on that? If not, we will go to the next question, which doesn't exist yet. So it might be up to you. Nope. Is Storm Pollux?
Yes.
What? I've seen Pollux forever. Storm was like a relatively recent name in the chat.
Yeah.
Did Storm change their name for something else?
What?
No?
What?
I don't know why I talk to you sometimes. Essay questions. Amber Muffin's got a question for you. Come on up.
Yes. Yes, Amber. Yes. Essay question? What essays are you
No, her
writing?
question is essay questions?
And the answer is,
Yes.
why not?
Depends on the time of year.
How old are you? And what color is your hair?
Yes.
And are you lefty? Or not lefty?
If it is Wednesday, if it is the spring, if you're brunette and you are a righty, then your essay question is, should schools adopt school uniforms? Why or why not?
Let me get a prompt. Oh, we'll let you get a prompt.
Amber.
Be prompt about it.
Oh, she can get a prompt. Okay. Be prompt about it. Yeah, that's good. That's the good stuff right there. That is rich.
Very rich.
That's why they watch us. That's why we're paid the big bucks.
Big bucks.
Big dollars.
For what we're doing right now.
For this. Yes. The money is just streaming in.
Oh, Pollux has another question.
Oh.
While we let you get a prompt, we might do a Pollux question.
Ooh, bags of marbles. I'll get rid of
Your marble bag.
you.
You know what? I did the last one of these guys, so maybe I'll just do this one. Amber, take your time. I'm going to do a Pollux question real quick. Okay, so we got a bag. It's got marbles in it. I'm going to draw that bag. Draw that bag. He's going to draw that bag. It's a bag. We got little marbles in it. Yeah? Great. So that's, just look at that and listen. So we have 16 red. We have 7 yellow. We have 19 green. Whoa. It's probably a bad idea. How many additional red marbles must be added to the 42 marbles already in the bag? Does this add up to 42? Yes, it does. So that the probability of randomly drawing a red marble is 3/5. Okay, so add red marbles. Dot, dot, dot. We have 3/5 red to total. That's what we want, okay? Hopefully this simplifies it a little bit for you, but this is the total thing again. We're not given a total. Actually, they do mention a total in passing, so we have 42 total. Now, the difficult part about this one is that the total is changing. We start with 42, but then we have to add a certain number of red marbles. So let's see, how do I want to do this? We eventually need to get to 3/5. So let's say that we're going to equal 3/5 eventually, right? We're going to come up with a fraction that will be 3/5. So we're at 16 out of 42 originally. which is not 3/5. I don't know what it is, but it's not. So we're going to add some red marbles. Let's say that we add X marbles. If we're adding X red marbles, we add that to the red, but we also add that to the total. This is your equation. It doesn't look like a normal equation, but it is. So we can cross multiply here. So does this make sense so far, Storm, Pollux? This is definitely the leap you need to make because now it's just solving an equation, albeit sort of a weird looking one. But we start with this. We have a total. We have to get to there. You have to get to something. You're going to have an equal sign. I like building equations. If you have an equation, then it's demonstrating that, one, you're good at math because you can go from a word problem to whatever this garbage is to an equation, and then you just solve it and you don't have to worry about anything at that point, aside from knowing what your variables mean. So here, cross multiply, 5 times 16 is 80, right? 80 plus 5x equals 42 times 3 is 126, plus 3x. Subtract 3x, subtract 80, we get 2x equals 46. And so x equals 23.
Yay!
So that means that we have to add 23 red marbles to get to a 3/5 of the total, or the 3/5 probability. Now they say, sorry, I actually didn't address this, I apologize. In the question it says a 3/5 probability of drawing a red marble, which means that 3 out of every 5 marbles is red, right? So this hopefully makes sense there. Do you have any questions on that, Storm? There were a couple things I unfortunately jumped over, and I'm not going to write up the whole problem, so this is what I pulled from it. Seems fine. Okay.
There's a question for you from Amber in the Discord.
Oh, good. This is... Yes. Yeah. Good. I'm glad it makes sense, Storm. Ooh, Amber. How would you write an intro for the essay, question number 2? Okay. Somebody else come up here. I need to look at this for a second. Okay. How would I write an intro? Yeah. I'm going to have Brandon do stuff.
Any questions to do right now?
No.
All right. Pollux. Ooh, I think we just answered
Yeah, I just answered
all your questions. Great. All right. While Levi's looking at that, I can go ahead and spiel. So, for those of you watching on Facebook Live, we have some more information on our YouTube channels, on our Facebook page, and on our Twitch channel. If you're interested, we do this 5 nights a week. Every week, we're taking Sunday off for the Super Bowl. Woo! Woo! However, also, Storm, update on the score, or is it still 17-13?
17-14.
17-14. Let's
Football!
go. All right, sports ball, guys.
They had the ball. The Chiefs had the ball.
Chiefs. All right. Anyway, we do privately tutor one-on-one not for free.
Question: is the plural of Chiefs or Chiefs?
Chiefs.
Is it like leaves?
No, it's not like
Okay. Just wondering.
It's a good question.
the Chiefs. I'm from St. Louis, so I'd love to see the Rams in the Chiefs because the Rams left us. But yeah, we have a Facebook page, YouTube page.
Chiefs, right?
We have a Discord. We have Twitch. We have Twitter. We have all these things. If you guys want to stay up to date on what we're doing, we have a calendar that's been populated for the entire month of January and I think into February maybe even, of what we're going to be covering in our upcoming streams. Again, that's linked in our Twitch and YouTube channel. If you're interested, check it out. See which days you want to watch, what days maybe you don't want to, or you want to come only after we're done with the topic so you can ask questions about anything. If you want to ask questions at any time during the day, you can still use our Discord. We don't recommend doing that at school because you're at school. Chiefs got the ball, 2nd and 3rd, Pat 16. Ooh, okay. No, wow, nice.
Wait,
all right.
what's the score?
Still same score, but it's 2nd and 3rd at the Pat 16. Chiefs has got it.
Ooh,
So they might score. Thanks, Storm.
Okay.
You're the MVP. Levi is now ready to go ahead and
Amber,
answer this question. Cool.
the essay, they give you, I forget how long they give you, not very long. Your intro doesn't really matter. Just, I will explain this in a second. Just introduce it. So your thesis, I'm sure you've heard me say this before, but with the SAT essay, you're not arguing your own general point. You're reading somebody else's general point and saying if they did a good job or not. So they did good or they did bad is going to be your thesis, right? They did good.
Or well.
Nah, good. I want to make sure that they don't copy what I say. Don't say this in your essay. It will not get you a good score. You will not get a full mark on grammar or whatever it is. Or standard English conventions or whatever garbage they say. So this is your thesis, right? The author makes this argument. Yeah, you got it. Very good. That's all I have to say, and I'm done. The intro that goes into this, because this will be the end of your intro. That's where I have always, had people write their theses is at the end of the introductory paragraph. But whatever you want to do, that's what I recommend. So the intro before it is just going to be giving context, and the context can be very, very short. It can just be they argued this point. So they argue blank. Chiefs, thank you, Storm.
Yes.
Oh, so they scored a touchdown. So it's going to be
Yeah.
21-17 in a second? Good. So require... Oh, all right. Let's see what you can do, Tom Brady. Knock on wood. He's so good. Okay. They argue blank. That is your intro. Because you're not arguing something in this so much. Or I guess you're arguing they did good, they did bad. But just say, in the context of this discussion, whatever they might be discussing or saying, they argue this point. So I think in the one you gave me, it's going to be Martin Luther King argued... Wait, what was it? About? Maybe I was looking at something else. Yeah, Martin Luther King. So it's he tries to persuade his audience that American involvement in the Vietnam War is unjust. Okay? So that's what you say. Great, thank you, Storm. Martin Luther King Jr., I assume, argues that we shouldn't be involved in the Vietnam War because it's unjust. He did a good job arguing this point. Then you explain how he did a good job arguing this point. And that's your body of your essay. So your essay is just, this is what they argued, or your intro, sorry. This is what they argued, they did good. And then support that. That's all. Your intro does not need to be there because this is the SAT essay. It's not your English essay for school that you have several days to write or whatever. That's it. Yes, that is it. In this excerpt, Mr. Phil argues his point for blank. Mr. Phil effectively argues by yes. Yes. Effectively argues, successfully argues his point. Yes. That's it. And then if you're into this, you just, list the 3 ways that you're going to say they did that, whatever techniques they use to make their point. And that's it. Yeah. Yes. That's all. The intro doesn't matter because you just don't have time. What they care about is your ability to identify accurately and quickly other people's rhetorical strategies. They don't care about your ability to introduce those beyond, they argued this, they did a good job, let me explain it.
All right.
Wait, sorry, last thing. You can go on the SAT website, and if you go on the SAT website, they have example essays. Go to the best ones, and the best ones kind of just do that. Some of them do. Some of them give more of an intro. You don't have to, because it doesn't matter.
All right. We're going over Pollux's question. They give you a pie chart. Let's say a pie chart. And you have something that looks like this, and this is for peaches. All right, and there are 15 peaches. 15 students chose peaches. All right, you have 90 students, and they're choosing their favorite fruits. All right, so let's see. We're given that apples, bananas, and strawberries were chosen by an equal number of students. And strawberries. Whoever named those, I'm a little confused, but okay. Here's what we're given, and what we're trying to find is what is the measure of the central angle of the graph, of the chart, right, of the circle for bananas. So find central angle for the bananas, all right? And apples, bananas, and strawberries were an equal number of the remaining students. What must be the measure of the central angle in the circle graph for bananas? Well, let's think about this. We know that if we were to add all these up, peaches, apples, bananas, and strawberries, we'd get 90. We know that apples, bananas, and strawberries are all the same value, and I know that peaches are 15. I'm going to go ahead and build a quick equation out of this. I know that 90 equals 15 plus, I will say x. So 3 times x, right? Each one of these is x. Now I'm going to subtract these over. I'm going to get 75 equals 3x. I get x equals 25. Great. Now what? Now I know that apples, bananas, and strawberries reach 25 out of the 90. This goes back to maybe a couple days ago, a couple streams back. We went over circles, arc length, angle measure, and sector area. So if you want, you can go back and watch that for a pretty comprehensive example of how to understand all of that and how you solve it. But what I want you to understand here, a really brief explanation, is if we have a circle, pie chart, broken into quarters, you know that these are all 90 degrees, right? Circle is 360 degrees total. And if I cut it into quarters, I can divide this by 4. It's the same thing, and each one of these is 90. Now, we don't have 4 equal parts here. We have 3 that are equal and 1 that's not. So that doesn't really help us for, it doesn't work exactly like this, right? I can't just say they're all the same and it's 90. I can follow the same principle, though. I know that I have, instead of 1 out of 4, I'm going to break it down into, I have 25 over 90. Okay, I'm going to grab my calculator. So I don't have to do all this in my head. But I have 25 students out of 90 is going to be equal to this is a proportion, right? This is going to be equal to the angle measure I want, the measure of the angle, over 360 degrees. All right? This proportion here, 25 divided by 90, which is going to give me what? 5 over 18, is equal to the proportion of the measure of this angle that we're looking for over 360 degrees. Now I just plug in. I'm going to take 5 times 360, then divide it by 18. And I'm going to get that this measure, the measure of the angle, is equal to 100 degrees, which is quite convenient. I like nice whole numbers. Pollux, storm, does that make sense? Anyone else watching, does that make sense? Does it not make sense? Was there anything I did here that was not clear? You have any questions? Let me know. Post in the comments. Post in the chat. Yes, it makes sense. Great. All right. Also, 24 or 21 to 17. They got the extra point. Any other questions? We've got a couple minutes left. We can probably go over at least one more question. If not, I can keep talking about how we do other things. In fact, we're about to be really active on our Twitter. I can tell you that. Levi doesn't approve as much. But
Still gotta have a conversation about that.
I know, at the very least, I'm going to do it on my personal Twitter.
Ooh.
But yeah, if there are any questions, for anybody who's on Twitch, if you are new, you like us, feel free to follow. If you're on YouTube, feel free to subscribe. If you're, time to turn on tweet notifications, heck yeah, let's go. Also, if you guys, bless you, of course. Levi, did you hear that?
No.
They said bless you because you sneezed.
That was me.
It was you? Okay, it was Brady. I heard someone sneeze and I didn't see who, and I assumed it was Levi.
Did they say bless you Brady or bless you Levi?
Just bless you.
Oh, okay. That's good.
They couldn't tell. I couldn't tell, and I was here.
Mazel tov.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's all.
Let's see. All our social medias, YouTube channel, feel free to subscribe. If you have Twitch Prime, hey, it's free. You can subscribe. There's a little button. I think it'd be on this side.
No, she said bless you, Brady.
Ooh, bless you, Brady. Yeah.
Bless me, Brady.
Thanks for following Twisted Deeds. We appreciate it. Yeah, look at that. If you guys have any Twisted Deeds, ask us questions, get answers. That's why we're here. We're here for you. If you have anything, we have 5-6 minutes. We can definitely answer a question if you have one. If you're taking the SAT, ACT, if there's a certain topic you know you're not familiar with, if you don't know what you are and are not familiar with, we have some tests down below because you're through Twitch. You can check that out. Go through the ACT, see if there's any questions you're not familiar with. You can ask us, and we can actually pull up an overlay of that test, like the weatherman might, and we can go ahead and work that out on the screen. So ask us questions. That's why we're here. Also, if you guys like us, if you think we're doing a good job, feel free to tell your friends, tell your schools, tell your parents, tell your communities. We do this for free.
Tell your children who are the age to take the test.
What's the ACT writing part like? Do you mean the essay or the English grammar writing stuff? Also, look, if we low-key shut down Kaplan because this is free and it's better, because it is, and it is, then hey, cheers to us. But, you know, we got to get there first, so spread the word.
Okay, so essay on the ACT.
I should get this.
Not like the SAT essay. The SAT essay is kind of weird that I was just doing with Amber.
Food off my...
The ACT, I apologize.
No, you're fine. Don't actually.
The ACT essay is a little bit more normal. They'll give you a topic, then they'll give you 3 perspectives on the topic, and then they'll say write an essay, you know, regarding it, incorporating those 3 perspectives. The SAT isn't normal. Yes, Amber, that's fine. Amber, you'll understand one day that it's not all about being normal. Thank you, Jana. We got a Facebook message. Hi, what's up?
Hey.
Yes, we're doing a great job for those of you who are watching, hopefully, and learning something. But please ask questions. Ask questions about the test. If you have kids that might take the test, then ask questions about that. ACT is explanatory. I don't fully understand the question, but the SAT gives you somebody else's essay, essentially, and then you talk about whether or not they argued it effectively and how they argued it effectively. The ACT is a little bit more of a classic essay that you would write for school, where they give you a topic and then you argue your point. 60 minutes on the ACT essay. I forget exactly the number of minutes. Might be 50, but I'm also making that up. So for the ACT essay, we're going to have those 3 perspectives. And this, so first perspective, second perspective, and third perspective. So your essay, so you're going to have your thesis in your essay. You're going to have your thesis, you're going to have your intro, whatever it might be. Now, they say incorporate, keep this consistent. They say incorporate the 3 perspectives that are given to you. These could be fully formed essays, but they're basically just the theses or the thesis from each of those essays. So in your essay, your thesis could be very similar to any of these. It doesn't have to be. It's whatever you think you can argue effectively and want to argue effectively. So you put your thesis here based on whatever the topic is, and then you have to incorporate these. So if perspective 1 agrees with your thesis, in part or in whole, then it can be maybe one of your body paragraphs. Because you can have a thesis on a little bit higher of a level, and then say, well, this is my first body paragraph. So, so you have argument 1, arg 1, and it will incorporate the first perspective. I would recommend against naming the perspective in particular. They just want you to incorporate them. So don't say, according to perspective 1, and then not explain it. Use whatever that idea is. And then let's say perspective 2 is a similar thing, so that's going to be argument 2. But then let's say perspective 3 goes against what you're saying. So in that, and that's very, very common. So in that case, Pat's of, oh boy, that's not good.
I'm checking it.
So your third argument could be, well, some people say whatever perspective 3 says, but they're wrong because of this. So you incorporate a perspective that disagrees with your thesis by saying this is a possible counter-argument, and then you counter that counter-argument. So that's how you do the ACT essay. Very generally, I would recommend checking it out, but it sounds like you will, probably. Okay. Any questions on this? Actually, Pollux, I would recommend just checking out the essay prompts before you ask more questions about it. This is the general setup that they give you as a prompt. Uh-oh. Are you apologizing for the fact that the Pats... yep. Okay. How much time is left?
Like 3.5 minutes or so.
Okay. Yeah. Patriots defense is good, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
At time, by
Yeah, we're at time, so please let us know if you have any more questions. You can post questions in our Discord at any time. You can, send us messages on Facebook at any time, whatever it needs to be. If you have follow-up questions, just at any time, just ask. We'll be back tomorrow. It is Martin Luther King Day tomorrow.
I think we're streaming.
Yeah. Same time, because it's a school night. Tonight's not. Whatever. Maybe we'll talk about this essay prompt more since it's about Martin Luther King. That's nice. Look at us designing curriculum. Sort of. Okay.
All right.
Do you guys want to say bye or no?
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.